As the base exponential function, we have a to the x. A is the base and has to be greater than 0 and different than 1. Also, the reference point is going to be on the 0, comma 1 coordinate. Its domain has to be all real numbers, and the range is y is greater than 0. Having this graph that is y equals 2 to the x, that could be like a perfect example. We have 2 that is not 1 and is greater than 0. Also, we have its exponent to the x, and its reference point is located in 0, comma 1. The domain is all real numbers, and the range is greater than 0. The exponential growth is the one whose rate becomes ever more rapid in proportion to the growth total number or size. An exponential graph represents the exponential growth. Its main characteristics are domain, all real numbers, limited range, and a reference point that starts in 0, 1 and moves depending on the graph. The exponential decay happens when a group or of something is declining and the amount that decreases is proportional to the size of the population. Using nuclear energy has been shown in the past that has some security implication when there is a lag on the execution of the process. Therefore, it may explode and cause major consequences just like Chernobyl. We consider that nuclear energy is clean nowadays, and it can become the most common way to get energy if well executed and with special security regulations. We consider these disasters could have been prevented by the planning the possibilities of these scenarios before executing the plan. Also, with more security regulations and second plans for evacuation. We believe it was possible to stop the radiation to spread, but only with the security planning and resources that the government had at the time. It was very difficult to stop. We think that Mexico wasn't affected by this radioactive pollution, but we are aware that other countries were seriously affected by this due to their proximity with the country. First of all, we know that according to the United Nations Scientific Committee on the Effects of Atomic Radiation, UNSCEAR, the Chernobyl accident had by 2005 caused 61,200 man-sp of radiation exposure to recovery workers and evacuees, 125,000 man-sp to the populace of Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia. In Russia, the explosion also made thousands of people to move out of their homes because it wasn't safe living there anymore. The disaster also caused a negative effect on animals and plants and gave them diseases such as dipygos. Also, pregnant moms that were near the explosion lost their babies, and some of them their own lives. We are aware that Mexico owns a nuclear plant that is located in Veracruz, Mexico. We consider it safe because workers and managers have security regulations, and it is very complicated that the plant exploits sporadically. That's why we agree on Mexico's decision on adding to the train of this very elaborated energy and advancing with everybody else.
Some of the consequences of nuclear weapons are all of the death it causes. Also, global temperatures would crash and most of the world would be unable to grow crops for more than 5 years after a conflict. In addition, the ozone layer, which protects the surface of the earth from harmful ultraviolet radiation, would be depleted by 40% over inhabited areas and up to 70% at the poles. The possible consequences are both alarming and eye-opening. They show that nuclear weapons are something serious and wars are not the correct way to solve a conflict. A proposal is to ban the use of nuclear weapons. No conflict is worth the severe damage that could happen, and conflicts are better solved when spoken about. It was fun because we got to meet people from a different campus, but it was also a little complicated because we never saw each other. But in the end, we liked it, and what we liked the most was that now we have new friends.
The Chernobyl accident in April 26, 1986, in the number 4 light water graphite moderated reactor in the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, which was operated by people who weren't trained properly for this. It occurred during a night safety test that simulated station blackout power failure and the safety systems were turned off. This test eventually resulted in an uncontrollable reaction. The explosion and fires released radioactive into the atmosphere, and 2 workers died on the night of the accident. Later, there were 134 persons hospitalized, and after a week, 28 people died because they were poisoned. This fire produced considerable updrafts for about 9 days. This incident dominates the energy accidents subcategory, one of the most dangerous nuclear accidents in history. China is a small country compared to all of its population, and population keeps increasing, making the country look even more smaller. There are some consequences to this. They are lacking space for houses because there are too many houses. In 2000, the estimated population was 12,658,300. It relates with exponential growth because population keeps increasing every year, and it relates with exponential decay because among more people, there is less space for houses and less resources.
Ebola is a very infectious virus originated in West Africa in 2014. Around 23,200 people were infected with this virus since it started. Ebola is spread by direct contact or contaminated fluids. Exponential growth can be seen since every day the number of cases of Ebola grew, and exponential decay because people were dying because of this virus.